No, no! No! Are you listening?
Today was bullshit. Bullshit. I was without my bipolar medication for 12 hours past the time I was supposed to have my dose. Needless to say, things were foggy and cloudy, and I felt a little bit strange. Don't ask why that accent comes out. I think it's still Bob from Cornville Dating Service. I don't know. But I want to tell you guys, today we're going to talk about how Mr. Penis, the owner and proprietor of the Solo Chomo Sex Shop, the Cornville Condom Company, and the Trailer of Failure, we're going to be talking about how he ended up in that chat room. And we're not just talking about why he ended up. We're talking about how. I will set the stage for you. Back in 1994 or 1995, GeoCities came about. Now that was a place where regular Joes like us can go and make our own homepage, or homestead as they called it. It was back before websites and you had like Wix and all these other popular website builders. Now, GeoCities back then was usually one page full of mismatched colors, and you had like unnecessary animated GIFs all over the place and information like, "Hi, welcome to my homepage." It was pretty generic, but at the time it was groundbreaking. It was a way for people to have an identity, an international identity. You knew when you put that on there, well, at least in your head, you thought, I am now visible to the entire world. And that was pretty powerful at the time. You'd send your friends and family there. You'd go to theirs. Now, granted, it was just sort of a novelty in the beginning before people figured out how to make money off of it. In 1997, I made my first purchase. I believe it was 97. It was from Steve Vai, the musician, the guitarist. I bought a shirt of his, and I bought some guitar picks. And that was like my first time ordering online. Things were so new. Every time anything, what you would consider inconsequential now, would come up, it would be big news. Everything back then was new. The dot-com boom happened in the early 2000s, but this is before that. I have no idea when Lorne Armstrong would have been exposed to this technology. But back in those days, if you try to click on any kind of porn whatsoever, you might as well go to the store, come back, fix your dinner, and then maybe the 30-second video would be up. If you were looking at an image, go out, mow the lawn, come back in. It was a time of slowness, which, hey, in all reality, Lorne should have thrived because he is slow. His 56K modem would have kept up perfectly. Maybe that's what it was. That's why he figured out how the chat worked. Because his 56K modem worked concurrently in conjunction with the 56K modem on his computer. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But I think Lorne either saw Yahoo chat rooms on the news, or more likely someone he knew was telling him a story about how they were on Yahoo chat room and they were seeing girls naked, seeing or having chat sex with women. I don't know. But he discovered those chat rooms. Now back then, you had a whole bunch of subcategories. You had a guitar romance, specific things like that. You had like animal lover romance. I'm not talking about that. Well, you know what? Maybe it was, because back then things were unregulated. So who knows? But there were a lot of places this guy could go, and if he became unwelcome in one room, he could just jump to the other, until he finally found a place where maybe a woman would talk to him. Maybe. So I think Lorne discovered Yahoo, and about 2003 is when MySpace came out. 2003, 2004, I think. I'm going to say 2003. We'll just go with that. And Lorne figured out, because by then I know he had already contacted young girls. I know he had. Remember, this is Lorne, so if it says adult chat room, Lorne's going to take that as gospel. Adult chat room. So when he saw that first age show up as 13, or the first time he contacted a woman and said ASL, which he probably learned, age, sex, location, because there weren't images with your stuff most of the time. You didn't even know who you were talking to, whether they were real. But catfishing was not a science yet. It wasn't a way for these scammers to make big money yet. But Lorne would ask ASL, boom, 13, and his eyes would get big as saucers, like, jackpot! I can't believe I just hit a young girl in here. But that's Lorne. I know he did this multiple times. I know he did. Until he eventually got to MySpace. He had to practice deleting your archives. He spent a lot of time in these chat rooms. He probably clicked on a bunch of stuff in the program because to Lorne, or he heard his friend talk about, man, don't forget to delete your archive. You don't want your wife or somebody coming in and seeing all the dirty stuff you were saying. So I think that's where he learned all of his stuff. So he gets to MySpace. Now, MySpace is his dream. It is his dream. You can isolate people easier. You have a small group of friends. Now, all of his groups of friends were young girls. At least that's what it looked like. And he would order them in the way that, hey, oh, he's so junior high in his little pea brain. So he got to MySpace, figured out how to isolate. I'm just going to, not even MySpace Molly, another victim. Figured out, he probably, listen to me. Lorne probably argued with one of these young girls that he wasn't number one in their list and that they needed to make him number one. He learned how to go invisible on things. He didn't want anybody else to bother these girls. Yahoo Chat was a way for him to keep connected to Kayla, but at the same time, MySpace was much better because it was easier for him to cut her off from those thousands of people down to potentially just dozens of people that she knew. I mean, Lorne is so dumb that she could have had one friend on MySpace and he would have gone with it anyway. Because 13-year-old girls have lots of friends. But at the same time, let me put this in perspective for you guys as well, for you young bucks. 12 and 13-year-old kids, they didn't have social media back then like they do now. It wasn't something, the smartphones, I don't even think smartphones came out until a couple years after MySpace. And even then, just playing like an online poker game of text would take you forever. So the technology wasn't all that great. The instant messaging wasn't like now with Snapchat and Kik and all this other stuff. And even FaceTime didn't exist. You had no way of verifying who was who. You had no way of instantly contacting somebody without using like a Yahoo or things like that. So Lorne was restricted, thank God, because in today's day and age, I've said it before, with all these possible contact methods, he would be all over them. There are a lot of vigilante groups out there now. God help Lorne, had he gotten someone other than NBC and the police. Because I think they would have beat the crap out of this guy, because he was so disgusting in his chat. But a lot of these vigilante groups, they don't wait long. They're usually in his area. So for him to find someone in Bowling Green was a little odd. Yeah, it was close, but at the same time, man, Nashville, it's huge. There'd be plenty of women there, but maybe not the 13-year-old he was looking for. I don't know. But that's the technology back then. Completely different than today. Slower, maybe less police on it because it hadn't been exposed as child predator friendly stomping ground. It was mostly for adults trying to cheat on their spouses or trying to hook up with somebody. You had the amateur porn sites that were getting national media attention. Again, everything was new. So Lorne probably discovered it through a friend or a news story. I got to check this out. Watched his friend talk to a woman. Maybe even Roy. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, that's when it all started. And that's why, after Lorne had the internet taken away, in his head, all of that stuff is how it still is. Should he have a smartphone ever, and he discovers all these, which is why they'll never let him have one, and he discovers all of these messengers, all the ways he could contact people, the FaceTime, the Skype, it would be over. Thankfully, he's an old man now. Thankfully, in your 30s, Lorne might still have a chance with some of these naive younger girls with daddy issues. The only time in Yahoo Chat that I ran into an underage girl, I can't even remember, it was a magician. I think it was my dad was a magician, and I do magic as a hobby, one of my many hobbies, but that one is one of my favorites. And I said ASL, she said 15 Michigan, which was up near Abbott's Magic Shop, which is in Colon, Michigan. A nothing town, but a lot of people go up there and they for a convention. Anyway, she contacted me. She said 15. I said, you don't need to be in here. I'll talk to you later. That's what normal people do. That's what normal people do. But Lorne went out looking for these girls the minute he realized that it wasn't just adults. He practiced on a bunch of victims, got to MySpace Molly or whoever, then tried Disney Girl and Kimmy Kimmy Cocoa Puffs, and finally hooked up with Kayla. And that's how Lorne got there. And that's how the technology progressed. And I'm so glad he got caught. There's another video I'm going to analyze, but man, I have like 20 pages of hemophilia and attachment disorder. Holy crap. Anxious attachment disorder. I got to finish sorting through because it's a lot to pack in. And it explains a lot about this psycho who doesn't need to see anybody, doesn't even need to know anybody other than what they talk about on the phone. And that's kind of scary too. And this is where he got his start. Hopefully this was entertaining, or at least give you something to listen to at work. I love you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. I will talk to you in the next one.